The MCU kind of ruined superhero movies. It's no surprise that ever since the release of the first Iron Man movie, that the MCU was and is the flagship that led the superhero genre into the future. But looking at it 16 years later, one could argue they did more harm than good. But before I get into it, if you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell up top so you get notified of the latest and greatest videos. Now look, before I get into the video, I have to give credit where credit is due. The MCU has definitely given us some of the best comic book movies ever created, especially Avengers 1, which is my personal favorite, and I believe that's hands down the best superhero movie ever created. But that movie is only one of many. They gave us Iron Man 1, Black Panther, and other monster hits like Age of Ultron and Endgame. So I'll be the first to admit that the MCU has definitely made comic book history and single-handedly influenced an entire generation of comic book lovers and enthusiasts. But for as much good as they've done, they have done their fair share of damage. And they have fallen victim to what a lot of big corporations find themselves in when they get successful. And that's overconfidence and laziness. For a long time, the MCU was like Michael Jordan in the 90s. They just kept giving us back-to-back hits. It got to the point where most people didn't really care what was coming out, but as long as it was an MCU movie, they were gonna go and watch it. This caused the MCU to develop a loyal and dedicated fan base. But in the midst of doing this, they also overestimated how loyal their fans actually are. With the Marvels being the first MCU movie that didn't make its budget back, they're starting to learn that you just can't feed us anything and expect us to stay loyal, which is exactly what they were doing up until this point. From constant flops to bad TV shows to confusing storylines and misrepresentation of characters, the MCU honestly believed that as long as they kept working movies into the faces of Marvel, that the fans would just remain loyal and just keep watching them. But now a lot of you are probably asking, well, what does this have to do with them ruining superhero movies? Well, it's quite simple. Whenever something becomes popular, especially something in media, other creators and companies have a tendency to follow suit. Because now every superhero movie has to have a connecting universe. Or at least that's what it seems like. From their direct competition, which is DC Comics, to even smaller studios like Dark Horse Comics, every superhero movie cinema creator is trying to follow Marvel's formula. From the connecting universe to tie-in characters, even Marvel's most popular staple, the end credit cutaway. It seems like all superhero movies are starting to become the same. And if you peel back the layer even deeper, you'll even see that the storyboard for some of these movies are exactly identical. Most comic book movies nowadays start with this exact formula. The hero is introduced and is not doing well and is probably ill-received. They face off and fight the initial bad guy or henchman. Then a tragedy strikes and they're discouraged and they probably lose their confidence. All is seemingly lost until a mentor or someone that they knew before in the story gives them newfound confidence. After that, they go and try to fight the villain who has now became exponentially more powerful, and they probably have a huge battle in a metropolitan city with a giant beam of light shooting out of the ground. And what's crazy is, I'm not talking about any one movie in particular, but I just described so many superhero movies. I guess my point is, before or in the early days of the MCU, superhero movies weren't as popular, but they were very, very unique. And not all of them were blockbuster hits or had crazy CGI graphics. And some movies were just flat out bad. I'm looking at you, Ben Affleck, Daredevil. But in the words of Forrest Gump, they were like a box of chocolates. You never knew which one you were gonna get. To the action comedy of Kick-Ass, to the broodiness of The Dark Knight, to Spider-Man's crazy acrobatics, each movie felt like a unique piece of art. But now it feels like for the past 10 years, we've been watching the same movie. We can't even have monster movies without creating this same formula. Some people may think I'm being a little bit harsh, and you're asking yourselves probably, how could the MCU have prevented this from happening? I mean, all they did was find a formula that worked, and there's no way they could have prevented other companies from copying it. And my argument to that point is this: you combat plagiarism with high quality pieces of art. If you focus on having the best comic book adaptation movies you can possibly have, there is no way that you could possibly go wrong, and that would encourage other companies to do the same thing. Because take for example the new Deadpool movie that just came out. Even though this movie somewhat follows the same formula, it's unique because it's unique to Deadpool. They did a great job of bringing his humor, wit, and fourth wall breaking skills to life. And because of that, it shined through the copy and paste method that they've been using thus far. So if you focus on giving us more gems than garbage and stop trying to pump out movies just for the sake of expanding your own universe, it would encourage other companies to do the same thing. Stop thinking about the money and start thinking about how to put more soul back into your movies, and try to figure out more ways to incorporate the art of filmmaking and creativity into this amazing genre we call comic books. But anyway guys, I gotta go. If you stuck with me this long, once again, you already know I appreciate you. And please let me know what y'all think in the comment section. Do you think the MCU has helped or hurt superhero movies as a whole? Until next time, my fellow Asgardians and Kryptonians, peace.